All right, guys, so we have a bit of a follow-up from yesterday. If you go to my main channel there on YouTube, you'll see that we covered the drone attack or potential attack that was thwarted. So we have here from the Department of Justice, 5 men arrested and charged in plot to attack and kill government officials and others attending the Ultimate Fighting Championship at White House. Now, as I mentioned, we did cover this yesterday, but I did want to go ahead and go over some of these points here with you and show you some of these sources that I was reading from. For example, Ground News, as you can see here, it was widely covered by the mainstream media. And I did go through all of the media reports because I'm going to go over to a different source than the mainstream media, but I just wanted to see how much of what they covered versus what we're going to read about here in a moment from another individual. Also, it didn't take long for the Democrats to try to find some way to circumvent and diminish and compromise this. As you can see here, speaking of compromise, Kash Patel compromised investigation of terror plot at White House of UFC event. Now, I looked through all the material, looked through the articles. Now, the left, of course, are trying to connect dots that don't exist. They're trying to make implications and accusations that didn't happen, because when I go to the mainstream media and look at it, I didn't see anything here that genuinely suggested that anything Kash did involving with the Secret Service or law enforcement agencies undermined anything, outside of them trying to make the accusation that it made it more difficult or disrupted an investigation that was going on with these individuals already. And as I said, I went through the mainstream media, through the left, and through what would be the moderate and center. And here we have the New York Post, if you guys want to check into any of these things to read additional information. Then, of course, here on Fox News, because we're going to go all different directions from different sources. But I wanted to focus primarily here on Tony Saruga. Now, Tony Saruga, you can see his profile over here. So we're going to take this with a grain of salt. But what he said here kind of outlines maybe what the media wanted to talk about but didn't, because they couldn't corroborate it. So knowing the the level of detail that we're going to read here, this might be why the left had to go in and create some additional compromise towards Kash Patel. But nonetheless, here we go from Tony Saruga. GPS links the group to several Antifa protests and known jihadist training camps in Piñon Hills and Yucaipa, California, which we have been tracking since 2017. Now, I don't know whether or not he's actually involved with it, so like I said, take it with a grain of salt. All 5 were arrested in multi-state operations, Ohio, California, Missouri, Nebraska. The investigation is ongoing with more potential suspects identified. The group allegedly communicated for weeks, months, starting March, intensifying in encrypted apps. The plan: detonate explosive drones over near the north side of the event to force evacuation south towards waiting sniper shooters targeting high-value individuals. Now, remember yesterday when we covered this, I should have made it more specific, or should have highlighted it more, that the detonation would have then caused people to move to a certain direction where they had waiting snipers. Obviously very coordinated. A possible second wave at a White House gate was mentioned. In some reports, they discussed rendezvous points at Fredericksburg, Virginia, training funding and anti-government motives, grievances over corruption Epstein files, right? Data centers, etc. Some describe as ultra-religious, Christian-based, and claiming ex-military ties. No foreign terrorism links report. Evidence included seized weapons, ammo, tactical gear, chat screenshots, maps, and photos. The plot was described as serious but disrupted before execution. Officials, FBI Director Kash Patel, Secret Service emphasized it was stopped cold due to vigilance, including Proper's mother's tip. So one of the individual's mothers called in and gave them some additional information. And here are some of the individuals that were involved in this. And you can see it was multi-state involved, the connections that they have with the various groups and systems and methodologies that they were using to do this. Now, this was a major event. Now, remember, we talked about this yesterday when it came to Bret Michaels from Poison, who was going to perform there, as we saw from Variety. He was the only entertainer who specifically came out and said the reason we're not going is because of potential threats. And as we're learning from Tony here, is that this may have been, obviously individuals in law enforcement and other security divisions and others may be familiar and aware of this. And this may have been why the entertainers' security staff had told them that they didn't want them to performed there. And, of course, the media, of course, we talked about how they snarked about it and made fun of it and obviously insulted Trump about it to try to make a big deal out of the fact that they were leaving because, they wanted to make it look like, it was an anti-Trump type of disagreement. But in reality, they probably knew, or their teams knew, from individuals like Tony Saruga, who work in intelligence and these think tank groups, probably, obviously communicate with these different security teams and individuals because they want to protect the individuals that they, obviously the security teams want to protect the people that they are protecting and ensure that they are safe. So there was all this probably going on in the background. And it's quite extraordinary how this was foiled. I'm grateful and glad that it was foiled. I don't know how effective it would have been if these individuals did it, because obviously the military trains over and over and over again to make sure that these things are accomplished, as we saw the extraordinary events that happened in Venezuela and then even some of the things that were extraordinary that happened in the Middle East there in Iran with the conflict that was going on there with the rescue of the F-15 pilot and, of course, the downed Apache helicopter pilots as well. So quite extraordinary story. Let me know down in the comment section, again, if you saw some of the UFC fight events that had taken place and the extraordinary events that happened. Some of you did comment that you did watch it, so that was good to hear. But nonetheless, guys, this is quite an extraordinary situation. Very, very in-depth, very, very coordinated, as we have talked about. And, of course, we can even talk about the types of activities that were going on during our elections there, particularly in California with their jungle primary, and what we're learning from a lot of that when it came to homeless people that were potentially registered to vote in that. So we got a lot of stuff going on in the background that isn't always mentioned. So I just wanted to reiterate that I did go through all the main channels here with all the different articles. I even went through some of what the left was saying. And, obviously here, as you see, when they were talking about how it was compromised, it's almost entirely leftist groups here. But it's extraordinary to think that this was all going to be carried out. This was all planned the way that it was. But incredible that it was stopped, and I'm so grateful for it. So many things are coming together. So many things that people were talking about, like even with the weather, how the clouds just seemed to part right over D.C. where the event was going to happen. It's so extraordinary to see what's happening under the Trump administration. It's quite incredible. But nonetheless, guys, I want to thank all of you across New Tech, that's BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey, for your guys' continued support, as well as everyone here on YouTube. And as you know, below this video, you can find the various social media links that I belong to include X, as you see here, where you are reading this from. And, of course, if you order frequently from Amazon or a Amazon Prime member, you can use my landing page link when you're going about watching your movies or placing your orders. And your privacy is protected there, by the way. No information is given to me outside of seeing that someone had placed an order, and I get a commission from it. And, of course, from my VPN, my favorite trust zone down there, no fuss, no bloat. You get straight to what you want to do, and you get it done. But, of course, it is very simple to help out the channel by simply liking and subscribing and commenting, which I always appreciate across all of my platforms. So you guys are amazing. Thank you so very much. Appearing there on the screen, for those of you watching on YouTube specifically, you can click on that to subscribe, as well as to select notification. That way you know when there's content here on the channel, and I'll see all you guys in the next video.